Hello and welcome to the video. In this video I'd like to go through this frame here. This is the Æther frame from Flynoceros. So that's the flynoshop.com. I'll put a link in the description. Now this is how it comes if you order it with all the pieces in one place. So these are the 5-inch racing arms, you get the 3D printed mounts, the standoffs, and you get the little cage that you put together as well. Now this is what it looks like when you've actually built the thing, and I'm going to go through and show you how to put this particular model together. But one of the reasons that I'm doing this video is I kind of want to show you the frame and show you how to build it out, because this is forming part of my next build series. So if you haven't already, you can go and watch the video about the flight controller and video transmitter that I'm going to use in this. Also had a look at the motor and props in there too. So all I need to figure out is which camera I want to stick at the front and which receiver I'm going to use with my Taranis OpenTX radio, and then we can start building this thing out. Now, one of the things you might have noticed as I turn it over is when we're looking at the frame, it says that this is for the 4 to 8 inch kit, because this is a little bit unusual to some of the other frames that I've already looked at. Let me just move this out the way and bring in some of these other pieces. So these are all the different options for the arms that you can get. So there's everything from 2-inch arms, 3-inch arms, 4-inch arms. So the carbon fiber is very nice. And the way it's finished, hopefully the camera is picking that up, it's all beautifully chamfered. Now these little cutouts in the middle of the arms are there so you can actually pop them together, and that then is the basis of the entire frame. Now that isn't actually a weak point, because the way it works is when you attach these to the top and bottom plate, then the bolts that hold everything all together is actually the structural part. This is just to help you line everything up. And you'll probably notice that it isn't a symmetrical X frame, it's more of a stretched X. Now, when I got this frame in and I was looking at it and for the next build, and this is part of the fun, is that you can actually just choose the arms that suit you best. So let me just get these other arms out. There are two options for the 5-inch arms. These are the beast arms, and hopefully you can see why. I'll just re-grab one of these racing arms. Hopefully you can see the difference there. This one is kind of optimized, nice and thin, very lightweight for racing. It's been thinned down. This guy absolutely hasn't. So if you wanted to, you could buy the beast arms to practice with, and then when you were confident you'd got it all dialed in, you could actually use the racing arms to fly with. Now I'm going to be using 5-inch props on this model, and what I've decided to do is something a little bit different. Now the motors I'm going to use on this model are going to produce quite a lot of thrust, so this is going to be an agile little beastie. So what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to use the 6-inch arms with 5-inch props, and that's going to give me a little bit more room around the props for nice clean air, and it also means that the leverage from the motors when you're doing moves is going to be a little bit more, because they're going to be further out on the arms as well. Now, actually speaking to the people at Flynoceros, they actually recommend that that's quite a decent setup to do, putting 5-inch props on 6-inch arms. So I'm kind of excited about that, and that's the way I'm going to put them together. Now, once you've decided the size of the arms that you want, the next thing you need to do is then get your top and bottom decks. So here's the middle section. So this is the piece that's going to go over the center. The bottom and top plate are exactly the same, apart from the actual bottom plate has the bigger hole. Make sure that you're getting that the right way round. The reason for that is that when you put this thing together and you line up all the holes that are going to go into the flight controller, as opposed to these on the outside, which are the structural bolts, means that you can take the bottom plate off and replace the arms without having to unscrew the flight controller and all the rest of the gubbins from the rest of the frame, which is a really nice trick. Very quickly, what I'm going to do, you need to find the 4 longest screws in the kit, along with the nylock nuts. And then what you're going to do from the bottom plate, and again the bottom plate is the one with the bigger holes, you're going to pop the screws through the arms up into the top plate. First one's always the tricky one, even trickier doing it through a camera lens. There we go. And then pop the nylock nuts at the top. And then we're going to do that on all 4 corners, and then that also means that there's the minimum amount of protuberances down here as well. So let me very quickly do that, and then we'll come back and show you the last couple of steps. And also there's options for the cage as well, different cage widths depending on the size of camera that you want to use on it too. So here we are, just done those 4 bolts up. That took me about 30 seconds to do, and that is the main part of the frame built. And again, that means that these middle parts, that cutout isn't really structural, it's just to help you align the frame. Now this, remember, is going to the bottom because it's got the bigger holes that we can get the screws for the flight controller stack, and we have the domed screws here at the bottom, which is going to keep them out the way of a battery. Now, a couple of people that I've mentioned I was getting this to have talked about the fact that they wanted smaller kind of 20mm size holes for the middle of the frame, particularly when they were using kind of the 2 and 3 inch arms to make kind of little super lightweight quads. I understand from Flynoceros that there is something coming in the very near future that will actually allow you to do that if you want to use 20mm stacks, flight controllers and other pieces. Now I'm not here because I'm using those Holybro bits, so this is going to work fine. Now the next thing I need to think about then is how to mount the cage. Now the cage itself is going to fit on kind of like that. But again, we have a number of options of how we want to put it on. And that's really options about how wide you want them, because depending on whether or not you want kind of a micro, a standard, or a big camera, you can decide on the spacers. So you get a couple of options for these things too. Let me just grab these out of the packet and kind of show you. Now all of these 3D printed parts that I'm showing you are available from the Flynoceros Thingiverse page. I'll put a link in the description. I love the fact that they are making it so that it's easy to get hold of this stuff. Now here are the 3 that are available that's going to fit my frame. The first is a 20mm micro cam setup. So if you go for one of the really small run cams or one of the really small fox ears, particularly for small builds, this is quite a popular size. So you have the different separators and you have 3D printed TPU spacers that attach it to the frame as well. Word of warning, when you are going to use this, you'll tend to find that the little cameras are not exactly 20mm, they're usually just under about 19. In the kit that you get, there is these little black washers. Do make sure that if you're going to mount the camera, because that's the camera mounting hardware there in the bag, make sure that if you're going to use this 20mm setup, you use those as well. Otherwise you put a lot of stress on the side of the camera and the frame too. Then you have kind of the mini camera size. Again, go and have a look at the FPV camera reviews. We've got loads of different sizes. That's a 25mm spacing, or if you want to use a full-size camera, which I'm considering at the moment, you can go for the full-size version as well, and all the hardware and the pieces are color-coded. So let's just finish building this out. As you probably saw at the beginning of the video, I went for the blues, and the way this goes together is we just have to put these pieces at the front and back and then attach everything to it. So let me just loosen off the plate and pop these in, and then we'll come back and put the rest of it together. Okay, so this is how it looks when you put those pieces between the plates. So these little pieces, and they're actually slightly rubbery. I don't know if you can see how they're flexing. So in everything but the very coldest weather, what these things are going to do is also provide a little bit of vibration isolation up into the cage for your camera, which is a really nice touch. Now you get color-coded standoffs. 2 of them go inside the TPU pieces. You might have to give them a wiggle to get them in, and then the last 2 go into the other holes as well. Now in the actual kit you get the standoff screws that go into the end of these pieces. So let me just get these out, and then it's just a case of doing up the holes. So these 4 holes here correspond to the 2 holes at the bottom and these 2 spacers at the top, and then we have these 3 holes for the positioning of the camera, and this little bit at the back is for the holder for the FPV antenna. And if you use something like the TBS video transmitter, those 2 holes actually line up perfectly for you to mount it there too. Now we're obviously going to use the Holybro one, so let me do the final bit of assembly, and then this frame is built. So here it is, all put together. Now this again is using the widest frame for full-size cameras. I'm going to see what camera I actually end up putting in here. I might end up going for a slightly smaller version, and again I'm using the 6-inch arms in this build, but I'm going to be using 5-inch props because I like that kind of super stretched kind of look, and I think it's going to fly very nicely. So there's a couple of things that are worthwhile commenting on the frame. I do like the way it's put together. The quality of the carbon fibre and the finish is really high end. And the way you can take the arms off to replace them if you break one is dead easy, because you just undo these 4 bolts, and it doesn't mean then the rest of the flight controller and everything that you've got inside here is all going to come apart as well. There's quite a bit of room. Just grab a ruler. So at the back end, there's probably about 22 millimeters of clearance at the back, probably a bit more at the front, and that means that we can get quite a reasonable stack in here before we're going to run out of room. Now, quick talking on breaking stuff and breaking the arms. Obviously, one of the things with this frame is if you break one arm, you're going to have to replace the whole cross brace piece. But the Flynoceros guys do offer kind of a lifetime warranty. So long as you cover some postage, have a look on the website for the full details. But like a lot of the very high-end frames that are around at the moment, it means that if you do accidentally make a bugger of it and snap something, that you can get a replacement part for relatively little money. Last couple of things for those of you that have watched to the very end of the video, so thank you for sticking with it. First of all is normally the sticker sheet, which looks like this, only comes when you order the full kit that we looked at the beginning of the video. That isn't available through any other way. However, I've spoken to the Flynoceros guys and they have very kindly put a code up. So if you put Painless360 as part of the checkout code, then even if you're buying discrete pieces because the frame you want, they'll add a sticker sheet in as well. And the last little bit of news is that because I've got my frame here, I don't need to break into this other frame bag. So I am going to give away this Æther. For those of you that stay to the very end of the video, give you a chance to go into the prize draw for this. So to go into the prize draw, post Flynoceros as part of your comment with an exclamation mark at the end, and I will pick one of those comments out of the bag in about a week's time, and then someone else can get the fun of actually doing a build along with a frame that's going to be ready to rock and roll. So this is definitely a frame that's worthwhile looking at if you want a frame that you can build to your exact specifications, with all of those different options for the arm lengths and also the different options for the cage widths as well to accommodate whichever camera you want to set up. It means that you can pretty much pick the frame layout that's going to work for your exact build requirements. The only last thing I haven't mentioned here is on the top, you might be able to just see there is a little indent that actually allows you to use a Velcro strap to connect a camera onto the top. But also, if you look on the Flynoceros Thingiverse page, you can also see loads and loads of different camera mounts on here. I'm probably not going to put a camera on the top. I think this is just going to be an out-and-out freestyle machine that's just going to be for hooting around when I get the chance to fly. And if you're not sure of all the pieces that you need for the kit that you're actually looking at, or you want a very specific setup for what you're trying to do, then it's worthwhile getting in touch and sending a message to the Flynoceros team, because my experience is they've been very good at kind of helping you figure out exactly what it is that you're going to need. So join me in the next video in the series, where what we're going to do is we're going to start putting this together, putting the flight controller on here, putting the ESCs either on the arms or maybe doing a 4-in-1 in the middle, haven't quite decided yet, putting those motors on the outside, the camera, the FPV gear, and then taking this little monster out and giving it a fly. If you found that video useful or like the content, then please hit the like and subscribe button down below. If you want to go the extra step, you can become a Patreon of the Painless 360 channel and help provide support for what I do here. All the videos created here are put into playlists, so if you're interested in a particular topic, have a look at the playlist, and they all are organised in there to make them easier to use. If you're not sure if there's a video for your particular problem or topic you want to know more about, then add Painless 360 to the Google search term that you're interested in, and that should find the video, article or content about the particular thing that you're interested in having a look at.